next month. So, as super tired as I am after we've just hosted a huge party here yesterday, I decided I better walk through the garden and take some shots of what things are like right now so that I can enjoy looking back on this in the depths of winter, and so that anyone curious about what you can grow, how you can garden in southern Ontario with a relatively short season can see the kinds of things that we grow here. Shockingly, we grow loofahs. These babies are my first attempt at growing loofahs, and I'm so proud of them. I cannot stop showing these off to people who come here. Sometimes I take pictures of them and share them to people unsolicited because they're just the best. They will dry on the vine here when the weather gets cooler, so as we get close to our frost. Hopefully it happens before our first frost, but we'll see. And as they dry, you just can peel the skin off and it reveals this sponge inside, and it is so cool. I'm so excited by these. The tomatoes, I've been so busy with work, I haven't been able to keep them sufficiently pruned and cleaned up. So it started with some septisorium leaf spot, which is a fungus that often attacks tomatoes when there's damp seasons. This has been such a damp season. Good pruning can usually save tomato plants for enough time that you can get fruit off of them, which is why I'm frustrated that I haven't gotten around to these yet. But it's the end of the season here. We can only reasonably expect to get fresh tomatoes for another couple of weeks, and they're still pumping them out. There's a lot of large, not quite ripe fruit on them that will still ripen. Ones like this little guy probably won't get a chance to ripen, but we'll see. We'll see what kind of fall we have. This right here is signs of septisorium. I hope I'm saying that right. Leaf spot. Little spots that spread. They're usually kind of yellowish. This bed is a late August bed in all its glory. I've got some broccoli in here. Right there. Right there. It's getting leggy because the marigold here is covering it up. There's broccoli, there's some Fioretto cauliflower, there's some regular cauliflower, there's, I don't know, a bunch of other things in here. Maybe some rutabaga that I stuck in. I forget what I put in here, but it's things that will give me some produce in the fall. This was insect netting to protect our pickling cucumbers. It was draped over here, and the pickling cucumbers came out. You can see over here the watermelon that was in here is all diseased and ready to be done. So everything's coming out and the fall stuff is going in, and in the late fall when we start getting frosts, I'm going to cover this with plastic so that we can grow even longer. The things that are growing in this bed are fine with a light freeze as long as it gets warm in the daytime. Very light freeze. But the plastic covering will just keep it going longer. And I sowed a ton of fall seeds in here because I have trouble with them. Sometimes it's too hot for them to come up. This is bindweed. I'm just going to pull that. Sometimes it is a perfect temperature for them to come up, but then we get such a freeze that half of it dies off. So I sowed way more than I can fit in here, knowing that I'll be lucky if some stuff comes up in this fall bed. The marigolds also will die off at the first frost, but I'm leaving them in for now because there's at least something in here. And we've just been picking these carrots as we need them. This bed is one of my favorites right now. It might be my favorite right now. We've got the beans from the summer, which, oh man, I will recommend these seeds to anyone. They were earlier than anyone else in my area, giving me seeds earlier than anyone else in June, and I'm still picking them at the end of August. Every couple of days I fill a basket with them. It's been amazing, and I only have an 8-foot row. And then I've got some sugar snap peas for fall. I started them inside and stuck them in here because those beans will be done soon, but the peas will be able to take over the center of this bed. And again, you'll see hoops. We're going to put plastic cover over this bed as well. And there's some spinach. There's some that's come up. There's spinach throughout the little understory here. There's kale, which I think I'm going to chop the tops off. It'll still grow from the sides, kale will push out new growth pretty readily because you'll see it's kind of taller than these. There was actually a scarlet kale in here that was, I don't know, maybe this tall, and I cut it way down to the bottom, and I haven't checked on it, but it should be sending out new growth from the sides. Oh, I can't even find it. I can't even find it. There it is. Oh, yeah, there's some new growth. That's where I chopped it, and there's the new growth. So it'll be a shorter kale plant, and it'll fit under the plastic row cover. Other things in here are beets. These beets I sowed in spring, but the seeds just seemed to stay dormant, and they've just popped up now. Got some leaf miner action here, but that's okay. I have so many beet greens in my freezer. I don't need to save any more beet greens. And you can see the peas run all the way across here. Super, super shaded under here right now, but I think that's going to be fine actually because it's shaded them from the heat as well. Peas are a spring and fall crop. They don't want the heat of summer. There's some lettuce here I need to get seeds from. This is what happens when you let your lettuce go to seed, when it starts sending up that middle stalk. And these ones are starting to do it, but I don't want any more to go to seed. I could pull these, but honestly I like the shade it's giving to the spinach seedlings. And super distracted, I'm gonna come over here and weed the sweet potato bed. Can't even find the sweet potatoes. This is wild strawberries all around here. This is sweet potatoes in a bin, and the foliage is all mixed in together. You can see the sweet potatoes better in that bin, kind of runs down there. Cucumbers are all done. I mentioned the pickling cucumbers got pulled out really early, but these cucumbers here stayed in longer. The new growth looks fantastic. And there's even little baby Market More English cucumbers on this one. This is a studio long, and it looks terrible. It's got damage from cucumber beetles. It's got a rust fungus on it. I think that's what it is. It's still producing cucumbers though. Like here's one. These cucumbers were supposed to be on a trellis, but we didn't get around to it. In this bed, we've got carrots and Swiss chard and maybe some arugula. I forget what I put in here. Again, this will be a fall bed. I don't have hoops on here for cover, but you can plant so many things at the end of August for a fall garden and not even have to worry about having plastic cover. Things like arugula and spinach you can pick within like 30 days of sowing the seeds. So especially when the weather gets cooler, where they like it. So I'm not too worried about covering this bed. If we have a mild fall, the carrots will have a chance to grow a bit more, but we'll probably only get baby carrots from this. They took a month to germinate because I didn't cover them with anything. I always try to cover carrot seeds with a board or with cardboard or something to keep them moist, and I just failed to do that this year. I couldn't find the right size board and we were rushing to do something and I just left them. So a month later we got really spotty carrot germination, and I'm reinforced in using the board method for carrot sowing next year. The soybeans, this was my wife's decision to grow soybeans this year, and they are totally ready to harvest. That's something that she's gonna have to do today, is pick all these soybeans. We want them for edamame, so we're picking them green. I had to watch a YouTube video on what to do or how to know if these are ready to harvest because we've never grown soybeans like this before. And I guess when the beans are touching on the inside, it is absolutely time to get them. And then you'll give them a boil or a steam, toss them in some oil and salt, and then pop out the insides, and they're delicious. We only did a small patch. Seeds were really hard to find and they were really expensive. But we can save some seeds and we can do a bigger patch next year if we like them. This trellis took a long time to take off. You have to think about that if you want arch trellises or any other like garden design elements to have stuff growing on them all summer long. You have to plant things that will fill out early. We have scarlet runner beans on here and nasturtiums. There's cucamelons on this also that took a long time to take off. They were producing early, but most of this arch trellis was empty until mid-July because we have warm season things on it. And I don't know what I would do next year to change that. You could always put like climbing peas or something on one, something that grows fast and early to cover them early. But honestly, I'd rather just have a huge abundant trellis in the summer, like late summer, than to plant things that I don't really want that are just going to fill it up in the early spring. But it's something to think about. It took until mid-August for this trellis to get covered completely. Alternatively, this trellis has a heat-loving crop on it, but it's such a fast-growing, insane crop. This loofah took over by early July. And actually the tomatoes now, there's like dead stuff on the tomatoes, and then there's new growth, and it's starting to come up and join right there. There's some new tomato growth from over here. It's starting to climb into the big mat of loofah vines. Okay, so dahlias were my lesson learned this year. Like, they're gorgeous. I'm super happy with them, but they took over the entire bed. I'd never grown them before. Next year, these are going in the ground somewhere because this is like precious vegetable growing space in this raised bed. I have one rutabaga left. This is actually dahlias. I got the bulbs from my mom. My grandpa grew these same dahlias. Oh, Japanese beetles. Saboteurs. Can I move your car? Well, you need to put your boot on. Japanese beetles are enemy number one around here. They are an invasive insect. They eat quickly. They don't have enough natural enemies. Here, put your boot on. Put your boot on. It's just covered in flower petals. It's kind of pretty. Your foot. There you go, buddy. Yeah, so I have to go around the garden with a bucket of soapy water and pick them off things, but we just have not had the time. It's sometimes a couple days between my garden visits. Peppers. Next year, this whole bed is going to be peppers because they've done so well here. This one's turning orange down there. There's such a mix of peppers in here. It's hard to get them all straight. They were ripening really well early on, so we had lots and lots of ripe peppers in like early July, which is not normal. Usually it's much later for us. But they're putting on another flush of peppers right now. I'm hoping these all ripen before September or something when we have our first frost, but they're fine green as well. We need to do a pepper pick today. These are our little snacking peppers. They're so sweet and juicy. Got some lemon spice jalapenos back here. Coming on. We make cowboy candy out of those. So yeah, this bed next year, it did so well. The peppers did so well. This whole bed is going to be peppers. And we're going to make tons of salsas and roasted red peppers. Yeah, we're going to do that with a bunch of them next year, so we need more peppers. Okay, what else? This is the brassica bed. We've had this insect cover on since spring to keep the cabbage loopers off, those white butterflies that lay eggs that hatch into those little green caterpillars that love things like broccoli and Brussels sprouts and cabbage and cauliflower, which is what we grew in here. Currently we have a nice healthy crop of Swiss chard. This is Swiss chard that's going to seed, so I'm saving it, saving the seed. We've got Brussels sprouts that are super happy, and then there's fall plantings of, I don't know, I think that's a cabbage. I forget. I didn't label in the fall. I'm so good at this in the spring, and then in the fall I just stick seeds wherever. This is a broccoli. Looks like it's just gonna branch on me, but we'll see. And there's another, I don't know, cauliflower or broccoli, I can't tell yet. It kind of looks like cauliflower, but we'll see. And then this is a bunch of arugula that I just sowed, all these little babies right here. There's arugula, and there's kohlrabi maybe? I forget. It's gonna be such a fun surprise. This is cauliflower. And I direct sowed these. I love being able to do that. I'm gonna take this out. I have to give them a little bit of sun. I love that in the fall garden you can direct sow so many things. I start seedlings for a lot of things in the spring because we do have a shorter growing season. This is going to the chickens. These are just gorgeous. This one's starting to wrinkle up a little bit, but the colors are lovely. My daughter's favorite colors are pink and yellow, And so Grandma made sure she got some of these for our garden. These were a discount dahlia I got in the discount aisle, those deep purple ones, and they're gorgeous. Our strawberry bed has been really pumping out strawberries through the summer, which has been awesome, except it's been so moist, so wet that the strawberries were rotting on the plants. That's okay, they're a spring thing. I wasn't expecting to get a lot through the summer. They'll really bounce back in the spring, and we're gonna have to put a cage over this bed in the spring. I tried to lay plastic netting on this bed to keep the squirrels out, but the strawberries grew up through the netting, and then when I wanted to lift the netting off, I ended up ripping a bunch of the tops of the plants off and some of the unripe fruit off. So I don't recommend just draping plastic netting on top of strawberries to keep the birds and critters out unless you're like fluffing it every day so that you get it as the strawberries start to grow through. Can I get, no, I can't get that out of the way. It's it's there, buddy. The basil's done. It needs to be succession sowed, so I'm gonna remember that next year. Mental note. Wintertime, Amy, if you're watching this, plan basil succession sowings. All right, my arms are full of greens. This is really hard. Hands are full. Good morning, chickens. They're stinky. I have to get in here and clean them. The to-do list is too long for me. Yes. Yes. Okay. How many times do you hear mommy in a day? 400,000. This is a determinate tomato that was amazing. This is such a good tomato. It looks like death. It is death right now, but that's how determinate tomatoes work. They are designed to pump out a whole bunch of fruit all at one time. They have a determined amount of tomatoes that they will produce, and once they've produced those, they're done. They die. And this is great for short seasons. I mean, we have a long enough season that indeterminate will actually probably give us more fruit, but you know, it's debatable. So this guy just pumped out a whole bunch of these amazing golden cherry tomatoes. And even untrellised, this was just an extra plant I didn't have space for anywhere else. Even untrellised, most of them were totally fine. We had some slug damage. I don't know, a little slug damage. Maybe it split in the rain. But otherwise, like, we've gotten bowls and bowls and bowls and bowls of cherry tomatoes from this one plant. And I think it's worth growing again. You can grow these in pots really well. Just put like a tomato cage over them. This is the only kind of tomato plant that a tomato cage will work for. So we might do that next year, actually put it in a cage so half of the fruit doesn't rot. It's just another plant that you also might want to succession sow to have a determinate cherry tomato that is set to ripen at the end of July, and then a determinate cherry tomato that's set to ripen at the end of August. And then you just get a double whammy of fruit. When this one dies out, you have another one to replace it. We had a lot of trouble with squash this spring, where the cucumber beetles and the squash bugs were eating them and killing them as soon as they were planted. And so this pumpkin was sown in July. I'm not sure if it's gonna do anything, if it's gonna have time, but we're gonna see. We grew amazing pumpkins last year, and so it makes me sad to think that we're gonna have to go to a pumpkin patch to buy our fall pumpkins this year, but it just didn't happen. Every year there's something that struggles, there's a different pest to contend with, and you can never guarantee that you're gonna get what you want out of the garden. But we have to focus on the good things, the things that surprised us, the things that we thought, there's no way we're gonna be able to grow that, and then we got millions of them. Or the volunteers that came up and you didn't even plan for, and you got tons of stuff out of them. That's what I focus on. Raspberries really struggled this spring and this summer because it was so wet. They were rotting on the vine, or on the cane, I guess, and now we're getting a fall flush. The fall bearing raspberries are finally starting to pick up. These are yellow fall bearing. And then the red raspberries, which are a summer bearing, are putting out the bulk of their fruit now because rabbits pruned off all of last year's growth through the winter, and they primarily will fruit on last year's growth. So because they didn't have much to put out fruit on this summer, It seems they just saved their energy and now they're doing a fall flush, which I'm totally okay with. Totally okay. It's always nice to have summery type things coming ripe in the garden as the seasons change and you feel like you're going to really miss summer and everything else is winding down. To start to get lots of these summery things in the fall is really exciting, and I'll take it any day. The fruit trees are fine. These ones are smaller. This one right here and that one right there. They should be that height, but they were planted this spring because rabbits ate them off last fall. But I mean, that one is 2 years old, so next year this little guy is going to be that tall. These are the 3 apple trees that are on the hill here, and we are working on developing this hill into a native cottage garden. We have a non-native foxglove there, which will probably come out and we'll move it because I want this to be a native cottage garden just to show what native plants can do for you in the garden. My dad is super passionate about this and a little bit of that has rubbed off on me. So for example, we've got this obedient plant. It's hard to capture how stunning it is right now. It looks a lot more like glowingly violet right now. The light's just not being captured on camera the way I'm seeing it. What else do we have? We've got asters that are just starting. And there's borage there. Actually, the borage and nasturtiums self-seeded. I did not plant those. Yeah, I don't even remember what's in here. There's a lot of native plants that we put in this year that are actually just hanging on to life because I didn't care for them. But the beauty of native plants is you don't have to take care of them. So these guys are just stuck into the ground. Next year, they're going to come back so much bigger and better. It's going to be awesome. And I'm going to be surprised because I don't know what I put in here. It's going to be a magic garden that just pops up overnight. Hopefully. That's my wish for this space. And the ground cover in here is a wild strawberry. It's a native plant. It's aggressive, but I don't mind because otherwise the weeds would come up. This hill actually was thick with bindweed. I haven't been weeding it this summer. I don't know if it's possible, but I think the native strawberry is out competing the bindweed. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make any sense because the bindweed roots are like meters long and the wild strawberry roots are just these little hairs at the surface. But they're blanketing the ground. So I haven't had to worry about the bindweed in this space. It's shocking. The bindweed is coming up through beds from underneath this rock, underneath a thick tarp. They're coming up through, growing all the way up through here. And no matter how much I weed, they keep coming back. Oh, there's so much rhubarb. This is one plant. Started this from seed. It's in a pot in the ground and it's intense. I feel like it's gonna swallow me up when I walk by it. Chickens are doing good. One thing I love to do, oh, there's our little junk corner. Every homestead has one, even if you're in the city. There's a junk corner. One thing I love to do around a chicken coop is plant mint or nice smelling things. We did this at our old place too. Didn't grow as well because it was 100% shade, but mint will grow almost anywhere. And it's contained here because it's surrounded by tarp and rocks and 4x4s and bricks inside there. Like, it's pretty contained. Otherwise, it'll get away from you. It's pretty invasive. But the mint is a great smell cover-upper because chicken coops can smell if you don't clean them every week, which I don't because I don't have time for that. Yeah, I recommend it. Mint, and this is cat mint, which also smells great, and it blossoms all through the summer, and the pollinators love it. Hi ladies. Got some sunflowers coming up on the other side of the chicken run. Sunflowers! Happiness! See if we can see any over the top. Oh, there's one. Sunflowers. You'll see we've got some clear plastic here and white plastic. In the winter we take off all this white plastic and then we have a little greenhouse cover for the chicken run. They love it. They spend all their winter days outside. It's warm in there, warm and dry because of it. The winters are very dark here and that will slow your egg production. So to give them access to any sun that's available in the sky, I think it's going to help our egg production. It's hard to know last year because we had brand new layers and they were eager to lay, so we got lots of eggs through the winter. This year they're going into their second winter. I mean, some of these chickens are going on 7 years old, but our new ones are going into their second winter. So we'll see if the added light helps them to lay more. This clematis is gorgeous. This is a bit of a risk. I realized after planting these, clematises are toxic and they're climbing up the chicken run. But it appears that the chickens are smart enough or have a resilient enough gut that they're not affected by them. And the grape trellis. Also love the grape trellis. It is my daughter's garden. I have to get on this. I really wanted to keep wrapping it around this obelisk, but life has other plans. Anyway, it's doing fine. Probably just let it keep going. We planted it in February this year. We had a strange February where the ground was all thawed. There was no snow. It was mild. So I planted some things, some bare root raspberries and some grape. So it's in its first year. And this is all my daughter's cut flower garden, but we've had a lot of heavier rains lately that have started to flatten things. It's still gorgeous though. She's got zinnias. She's got some globe amaranth down in there, Comfrena. This is a non-native anise hyssop. We've thought it was native for a long time, but they look fairly similar. It's not. It's a non-native. It's an Asian one, but we're leaving it at least for now because it's beautiful. It is great for teas, and the pollinators live on this thing. They live on it. If I was out here when it wasn't freezing cold early in the morning, it would be just alive. My boysenberry was neglected this year. It needs a much taller trellis than this. But we do have some coming on. I ate like 3. That's all I got off of this year. But again, this is its second full year, so we should be getting more from it. Maybe next year. If anyone's grown boysenberry before, tell me why it took so long and if that's normal. This is a nannyberry. The nannyberry is a native berry tree, small tree. Super pumped to see berries on that. Maybe next year. This is its second full year. And this is our, what is it called? Trumpet vine. We had one of these at the old house and it was on an arch trellis and it was just a showstopper. Anybody who came by walked under the trellis to come into our backyard and was like, whoa, what is this thing? This one is being eaten. I didn't even know it had pests, really, that did anything to it. But anytime it started to put out little buds, they got eaten off, and the little growing tips are eaten off. Still, it's not in bad shape. Next year, I think it'll have enough strength to overpower anything, and it'll grow like nuts. We're getting rid of our pool in the fall, so this is going to change a little bit. But this is going to become an outdoor dining area and outdoor kitchen one day, not right away. That's a lot of money, but the space will be saved for that. And so it'll have a pergola over it, which this can probably end up being connected to in some way down the road. Joe Pyeweed, it's starting to settle down. It was like brilliant tufts of these beautiful flowers. And it was always loaded with pollinators, but it's wrapping up. It's way taller than me. And this is its second year, and even last year in its first year it grew to be way taller than me, so it obviously likes where it is. And then this is the end of our little flower garden area. We've got Jerusalem artichokes here in something. If you're going to plant Jerusalem artichokes, put them in a containment of some sort or they'll take over. There's some bee balm, black-eyed Susans, swamp milkweed, which was just planted this year, like this summer, so it didn't actually bloom this year, but it'll come back next year. That's a nasturtium that I do not know where it came from, which is so weird. Can't be a volunteer from here because I didn't have a nasturtium here last year. It's just a mystery nasturtium. Some echinacea over here. This big yellow beast is a fall sunflower that comes through from my neighbor's side of the fence every year, and I don't mind. Okay, I think that's pretty much everything for now. In the fall, I'm gonna do some more mushrooming things, but for now, the wine caps are actually, they seem to be a little dormant. We had plenty in the spring and even some through the summer. I'm hoping for more again soon.
I'm getting food, Mom.
You're getting food?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. I'm glad you're getting some food. We also have some elderberries over there that are young still. And there's a hazelnut up on the hill. We're trying to fill this hill out with low-growing shrubs and understory shrubs because there's tall trees above. All right, I am needed elsewhere. Good day to you, garden. The tomatoes are pruned. There's a chainsaw in the background. Maybe you can't even hear me, but we're simultaneously taking down a big tree. The tomatoes are now done. Done as in pruned. I don't think I'm going to touch these again this year. This is how they will live the rest of their life, just focusing on ripening the fruit, which there's a lot of fruit on there. Much cleaner. There's enough green at the tips that they should stay alive, but I don't need them to start growing more of these big slicing tomatoes because they won't have enough time to ripen before the frost comes in maybe a month. Cherry tomatoes, however, have lots of time to put on more tomatoes and to ripen those tomatoes. So where I cleared a bunch of space on the trellis over here, I've looped this cherry tomato over to here, and I'm letting all the suckers go. Like, I'm leaving them and I'm gonna trellis them over here, and this can just become cherry tomato all from one plant as the season comes to a close.